Hello guys, welcome to the Willow Saver. Today I'm gonna be talking about very important topic. I am getting a lot of queries and comments asking about how to do new bat preparation or seasoning. So let's talk about the entire process. I'll walk you through with the whole process, wherein we'll talk about every steps which entails new bat seasoning. And for this purpose I have a brand new bat from one of my teammate, a lefty batsman, a very solid batsman who needs a solid bat. He has got one. So let's get going. So primarily there are about six steps. I usually follow that process wherein split the whole process in six parts. The first would be oiling. We'll talk about each of the step in detail. I'll share my knowledge and experience, and if you have any questions you can ask around in the comment section, and we'll talk about those in detail in a later part of the video. So first being oiling, second being knocking. I usually do machine knocking. I have automatic knocking machine. Third is edge rolling. All these edges we'll talk about in detail. What is edge rolling, how do we do it, and so on. And the next step, or the fourth step, is toe knocking, where in the toe area I'll explain what is toe knocking is. And next step, or the fifth step, would be toe protection, which is very important, especially in Canadian weather, and the way we get the moisture and so on. So having a toe protection is a very good idea. I always recommend. That is that. And step 6 and the final step would be having a anti-scuff seat. Although it's not very important, it differs based on the preference for each player, but I always recommend to have a anti-scuff seat. We'll talk about pros and cons of having a scuff seat, types of scuff seat, and so on. So join me and follow. So let's talk about our first step, oiling. Oiling is very critical and crucial, especially in a Canadian weather and environment, wherein especially in the winter, the houses, we use heating system which uh, blows out the dry air, and the air inside the house is really dry, and which makes the any wood, dryness is not very good for wood. So what actually the oil does is it locks in the moisture, whatever the natural moisture the wood fiber has inside the willow, it locks it in, and that way the life of the willow is prolonged. So what kind of oil? So there is only one kind of oil which can be used on bat oiling, which is linseed oil. So we have a linseed oil. This is basically GM. It's not a brand endorsement of any by any means, and I wish it would have been, but it is not. Having said that, there are multiple different types of or different brands of cricket bat oil is available in the market, but everything is raw linseed oil. Cold pressed is what we usually use, and that's the linseed oil's property, which it locks in the moisture. So when the bat is new, it has a natural moisture in it. We should always apply oil, and every after finishing the season, or couple of season, we should always oil the bat to prolong the life. So that's about oiling the bat. Let's get going. How to do the oiling? It's all in a preference. People usually do in a different way. Usually we should avoid oiling beyond spleen area, wherein the handle is meeting the blade. most of the bats, the new bats comes with a sticker, so you already know, you have to avoid the sticker area. This is a plain bat, so I'm putting this as a marker so the oil doesn't spill over. There are multiple ways people use different ways to oil. I usually use my own hand. Just put a, you need to get very tiny thin layer of the oil. You don't have to overdo it. Just few drops all across the plate and just spread it. That's it. There is no rocket science in it. It's a simple, one thin layer of oil like this. Hope you can see in the video. At angle you should be able to see a very thin layer of oil. When you move your hand multiple rounds, usually the oil gets spread across, so you don't have to worry too much about it. And whatever oil bat needs, it usually absorbs in 12 to 24 hours. Every bat has a different depending on what wax they have used, what manufacturer has used. Depending on that, some bats usually quickly absorb the oil, some takes time, so it varies, but usually recommended time is 12 to 24 hours. Is the same thing you have to do on the edges, just very thin layer. Same thing at the back. Avoid the spleen area where we have the handle meeting the blade. That's it. Don't cheap out on the while applying the oil, because this is once in a while activity. You are not going to do very frequently, so apply liberally. Whatever absorbs in 24 hours it does, the rest you can wipe it off. That's like that. It's all done. We'll leave it overnight. We usually leave it like this, what you see in your screen. We don't keep it vertically. The whole idea of the oil is to get absorbed, so leave it in a plain balanced surface horizontally, so that oil gets some time to go through the wood fiber. So let's come back tomorrow after 24 hours. It's been 24 hours since we did the oiling. So as you can see in the bat, almost all the oil is already absorbed all across the blade, on the edges and on the back. I'll zoom in for you to have a look. Yeah, everything looks all gone. There is always a tiny bit left here and there. You can always, if there it is, even after 24 hours, you can wipe it off, and the bat is ready for the step 2 of knocking. Now, since you're done with oiling, let's talk about bat knocking. Bat knocking is, again, very critical aspect of preparing a bat. As part of bat knocking, what we are trying to do is we are trying to prepare the wood or the willow, because we play the ball, the way we swing the bat, the ball hits the bat, the impact is so hard, it needs to sustain. So almost every wood, or especially for willow, when they are manufactured initially from the raw wood, their fibers are not compressed enough, though most of the bat which comes are properly pressed and so on, but there is always a room on the surface of the bat wherein the fibers are not compressed enough. So that actually if you play without knocking the bat, there is a high chances of breaking the bat. Plus the ping of the bat or the performance of the bat comes out after the knocking. When you knock on the proper areas, the wood fiber compresses and it becomes a single entity, or solidifies. That helps the performance to boost up. That is when you see your shot has power, bat is the ping has improved significantly. And there is a myth, you only have to do knocking once when you are having a new bat, but it's not like that. When you keep playing the season after season, the wood fibers again gets disintegrated, maybe not the right word, but uh, inside it naturally it changes its structure and composition. So every few season we should knock it, so that you bring back that performance, or compress the wood again, and you will see your bat performance has improved after knocking, right? So with us we always use machine knocking. We have a automatic machine which knocks. We feed in the details, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 knocks, and then machine does thorough knocking. It starts from one corner, it keeps moving, and so on. And we have uh, kept the alignment as such that it doesn't go too far towards the edges or to the bottom. So that would be our next step after the knocking, how to take care of the edges and the bottom. But machine will take care of the entire knocking process, and the bat will be ready. Now many a times I get questions from people, what have, can you knock 15,000, 20,000, and so on. We can, but we won't recommend it. One go knocking shouldn't be too much or too less. It has to be adequate. If the bat hasn't been knocked, factory knocked, usually 10,000 knock is more than sufficient, to, compress the wood fibers, right? And then majority of the high end bats usually comes pre-knocked. Pre-knocked as in they are knocked fair bit in the factory, but again with that knocking, it's with the light sensitivity and pressure, so that the texture doesn't go away with the knocking. Obviously new bat, you don't want to buy a new bat while you're selecting your bat when you see a compression on the certain areas and it looks little bit odd, so that is the reason they don't use too much pressure while knocking in the factory. So if it is, the bat is pre-knocked, I think 5,000 to 8,000 is sufficient, depending on what grade willow it is and what kind of willow it is. And same goes for Kashmir willow as well. It comes in a different grades, so based on that we do the knocking. So that's all about knocking. Let's get going. We'll feed the bat in the machine and we'll see how the knocking is going. So this is our machine which takes care of knocking process. It's fully automated machine. It has all the sensors and everything. There is a computer processor outside which takes care of the entire settings, how many knocks, the movement and everything. This is where we feed in the bat. I'll show you in a while. So bat is all ready, we aligned it. Let's secure the bat so that when the machine is knocking the bat shouldn't move here and there. It's all secured. Let's go back and prepare the machine. So here we do all the setup. So it's all set for 10,000 knocks. Everything else is properly aligned, all the sensors and everything. Now we'll quickly start the machine so that the knocking can happen. Hopefully you can see the counter going up. Let's see how it's. So knocking is continuing. You can see bat is moving forward, backward, sideways. It will keep knocking until the 10,000 knocks, and we will cover almost entire face of the bat. Now let me show you. I'll zoom in a little. You should be able to see a slight compression on the wood right about here, all across here. That is a indication of knocking. When the bat is properly knocked, wood fibers are compressed. This is what it looks like. It's not a, deficiency or any kind of problem with the knocking. It's just that wood compression, and that's how it should look after the knock. Now let's move on to next step. Next step is edge rolling or edging. There are multiple nomenclature for this process, but I usually call it edge rolling or edging. So what this process, what we are trying to achieve is whenever newly manufactured bat comes in, it's always square or very sharp edges. So what happens when the ball hits the sharp edges, there is always a chance of chipping of the wood. So what we are trying to do is making it blunt. We don't have to go overboard on this one. We just have to make it a bit blunt so that the ball hits, it just bounces off. So that's what we are trying to do. We do this process manually with a wooden mallet. This is how, very gently. You don't have to go overboard. Just keep going, start from one end and keep moving towards the other end. Just feel it. You will be able to feel wherever it requires more edge rolling. Just do another round and you should be all good. Yeah, multiple times I get questions on how to do the edging. There are multiple ways people, different bat repair guys do differently, but to me the perfect I try to hold it in a kind of a 45-degree angle and then hit the edges very gently. So now this side is all done. I can feel, not sure if you're able to see, but you should be able to see the difference. Now it's more blunt all across, and that's what we are trying to achieve. Now let's move on to the next step, which is toe knocking. So what we are trying to achieve here is whenever you do machine knocking, any machine knocking, the way we have done the setup and the way all the automatic machine knocking sensors work is, it don't go all the way to the toe area, because toe area is regardless of what kind of bat you have, it's always a sensitive area or a less fragile area. So we always do it manual knocking. So there is nothing again super strong. You just have to do it gently. Start from one corner, go to the other corner. So you keep doing maybe 100-200 knocks, and that is more than enough for toe area. Let's talk about next step, which is toe protection. Now, toe protection is very important, especially in Canadian weather condition, wherein initial part of the season is always rainy and moist, and that damages a lot. The dry willow or wood takes a lot of moisture from the ground, or the mat, the one which we use, it soaks in a lot of water, and for weeks it's almost like wet. So for that reason, toe protection is really important. So there are multiple options for toe protection. The traditional ones are this rubber toe guards, something like this, which usually goes like this and then shape to as per the bed's profile. This is really common. It used to be really common, but I usually prefer my custom mixture of glue and epoxy, which I use for the bats, which adds absolutely negligible weight, about 1-2 grams, and it's fully waterproof. It covers the whole area. I always prefer and recommend having that kind of toe protection, which I have a bat which I recently did, something like this. I hope you can see in the camera. It's like this. It's waterproof. It lasts, depending on the usage, it lasts long, and it's doesn't add any weight, waterproof. So yeah, so this is what I recommend. Majority of my bat repair have this kind of toe protection. So we are all done with the toe protection. Let me quickly show you. This is how it looks after finishing. Takes about 12 to 18 hours to completely dry and cure, but once it dries, it's fairly durable and waterproof. So I always recommend having this kind of toe protection to protect the bat from the moisture. Now let's talk about our last step on a bat preparation or seasoning, which is scuff seat. So again, scuff seat is very important, mainly for protecting the pad surface from all the scuffs. Ball usually have a lot of paint and wax and whatnot, and with that the surface gets a lot of scuffs. So anti-scuff sheet is highly recommended. And sometimes when we play in wet conditions, balls are wet and so on, it does damage it. The other benefit of having a anti-scuff sheet is it whenever there is a sudden damage happens to bat, let's say a wood piece is chipped off, it doesn't fly away, and you lose that wood piece. That it's again a problem. So it helps with that. At least even if the bat is damaged, the broken pieces are hangs around the blade itself. So it's easy to repair at a later point of the time. When you have the original piece of the wood, it's much easier. For all those reasons, we always recommend having an anti-scuff sheet, especially for the outdoor conditions. So let's apply the scuff sheet. So again, there is no rocket science here. Just align the bottom and the top and slowly put it on. It doesn't have to be 100% aligned perfectly, all the corners, um, you know equidistance and so on. All it matters is, there is a scuff sheet on and it's covering the front face of the bat. Just run it few times with your hand so that the glue can stick on to the wood. I usually give cuts on the side so that while putting on the edges it doesn't twist or turn. If you have this small cuts, it easily goes on the edges. Otherwise sometimes you'll get air bubble and it folds. Last but not the least, our branding stickers. One on the back, and then we are all done. This is all it takes to season a new bat or prepare a new bat. Hope I have managed to enlighten you with all the steps it takes to prepare the bat. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me for more amazing videos. Love you all.